My best friend owns a lakefront property that's only a couple-hour drive away from my home. It's the kind of place that only recently got decent cell service, and it was exciting where the only local grocery store, which closes at 6 p.m. and doesn't open on Sunday, started accepting credit cards instead of being cash only. Suffice to say, it's not precisely easy to just run to the 24-hour corner store for necessities. Last year, there was a little bit of a problem involving someone who had had a few too many drinks late at night and a splitting axe. So this year, my friend invested in a buttload, I believe it's called a cord, of pre-chopped firewood that spent the summer sitting a safe distance from the fire pit. Over the course of the summer, we burned through about 90% of it. The remaining 10% posed a problem. Termites had found it, and the lake house is made of wood. 10% of a buttload is a lot of wood, and my friend rather enjoyed having a house. Solution? Bonfire. We made the most of it and threw a party. Friends brought up sides, there were several grills and a smoker being put to use. In the organizing for this, I was tasked with bringing up the ingredients for s'mores. A lot of s'mores. When I was tasked with this purchase, I made a point to ask around and confirm nobody had weakness to gluten. Nobody said they did, so I got the cheap kind of crackers. The party started in the afternoon, and everyone was having a fantastic time. Several people who were out on the lake and got lured in by the smell of all the meat cooking asked if they could have some, and the answer was of course they could. My friends are those kinds of people. There certainly was enough food for everybody. When the sun started going down, preparations were made to light the fire, and the fun police, read wives or girlfriends, ruined everything by making sure no lighter fluid or gasoline was used. Just a regular boring grow lighter and some paper and the powdered wood left by the termites. Can't have everything. Once the fire took off proper and it got a little darker, I started issuing wooden skewers and marshmallows to the kids so they could make s'mores. Adults were self-serve. I didn't feel like I needed to inform them that they shouldn't poke anyone or anything with the skewers. One unfamiliar little girl and her mom popped up in the queue, and I gave her the same instructions I gave to anyone, and the kid's mother asked, "Do you have gluten-free graham crackers?" And I shook my head no and apologized, saying that kind are kind of expensive, and when I asked, nobody said they had a weakness to gluten. I figured it wasn't a huge deal, just add another piece of chocolate, and it's a s'more if you squint hard enough. Shortly after that encounter with the woman, which I'd foolishly figured was settled, I heard a child scream and start splashing down at the water, so I dropped everything and ran over like most at the party had done. Dark plus water equals scary, all hands on deck kind of situation. Happily enough, the child in question was fine. He'd tripped and face planted off of a dock and into water that was about a foot deep. Just scared the daylights out of himself. Nothing a towel and a change of clothes couldn't fix. When everyone returned to the fire, something was missing. All of the stuff to make s'mores had disappeared. Marshmallows and skewers were still there, but no crackers or chocolate. Started to head scratch and asked kind of loudly if anyone knew what happened to the crackers and chocolate. Gluten Mom piped up, "My daughter couldn't have a s'more. That wasn't fair to her." I just stare at the woman. "So what did you do with the crackers and chocolate?" "I threw it in the fire. I hate it when people deliberately exclude my daughter. Now you've learned your lesson." I was still shocked at this point. You threw the food in the fire." "Yep. Walmart has gluten-free. You can just go get them. They're not that expensive." The nearest Walmart to the camp is a 45-minute drive one way, and most of the adults had at least a couple beers in them at that point. At this point, the kids who didn't get distracted when someone fell in the water are showing back up with variable amounts of char on their marshmallows, excited for their last s'mores of the summer. And they're just as confused as I was about where the stuff went. Parents are grabbing new skewers and marshmallows, realizing something's missing. Where'd the stuff go? I just point to Gluten Mom. This woman threw it all on the fire. Since I didn't bring gluten-free crackers. She did what? Who even is that? She was one of the people who had shown up on a boat drawn in by the smell of all the meat cooking. Nobody knew who she was. Kids have started crying, parents just look at her with disgust, and this woman has the audacity to say, "What's the big deal? Walmarts are everywhere." You'd better go. Now. She doubles down, starts getting louder. You made me do that. I didn't do anything wrong. You did when you excluded my daughter. The person who had inflicted this woman on us shows up, asked what had happened, and upon being told what she'd done, didn't even seem shocked, just tired. I'm sorry, this is her first time up here. She didn't know. Gluten Mom squawks, "No, we're going!" Everyone had toasted marshmallows, but it was kind of a gut punch that she'd managed to ruin Summer's last hurrah. It is the day before I am meant to go to college after taking a gap year to retake the exams that I did not do well in due to circumstances surrounding my father. Within that gap year, I also traveled to 3 places. Everything was funded by myself, even the exams, despite my father, who should have really been the one too. I have been funding myself since I got my job at 16, even with things my parents really should have paid for. It is the day before I am meant to go college. I have not spoken to my dad since June after a massive argument involving him owing me $500. This was the argument that broke the camel's back. Years of controlling behavior, narcissism, and emotional and verbal abuse have finally hit, and I'm slowly starting to accept that he will never change. I get a call from him as I'm packing, and I hesitantly pick up. I was deciding whether I should say goodbye to him despite not speaking to him. I guess African parents have really ingrained the respect aspect into my head. I answer, and he asks for me to come down. I do, and after not speaking for months, he asks what I need for uni. It started off with making a plan for things I need to buy. Keep in mind he spoke to me as though he was boss, not my father, but I don't know why I expected that from him anyway. After 2 minutes of that, he goes on to his lectures of shit I do not need to be told about how I'm sharing a kitchen and I can't be messy like I always am, as if I have not been the only one cleaning up in his house. He says I need to focus and can't keep following friends like I always do, all this BS that stems from the hate he has, that I am not going to let him control me anymore. Get this. He then starts going on about how I feel entitled to my own money. Is that not the stupidest shit I have ever heard in my life? He says that the money I used on the holidays could have been used on my uni, the money I worked hard for, the money I was also using to fund everything for myself, including tutoring, exam fees, food, clothes, everything. My parents, or should I say mother, as my dad has never paid anything for me in his life, has never had to worry about paying a thing for me. God forbid I use my own income on things for me to enjoy myself. How am I supposed to predict he would lose his job in May? They've had so many years to prep for me to go to uni or college, especially with me never asking them for a dime, that I find it utterly ridiculous he expected me to save for rent. My savings are the savings and for my plans. He says it is a privilege and not a right for them to support me, the very parents who wanted me to go in the first place. This man does not want to be a father. He refuses to spend money and time on all of his children because to him the only thing he cares about being a father for is the ability to control people's finances, and control what they do. Every rule applies except for him. To yell at me for feeling entitled to my own money, I have to laugh. I have my answer now. I am okay leaving tomorrow, not saying goodbye to that man. I've always had a fraught relationship with my parents. If I had to briefly summarize the last few decades of our relationship, I'd say that my dad is very stern, controlling, and emotionally volatile, and my mom is an absolute cacophony of anxiety. My father embodies the traditional husband role. He can be caring, but he has complete dominion over my mother and will tell her what she can do, when she will be home, what time she will go to bed, that woman better have dinner ready, and by God, she will not talk back. My mother has good qualities. She's generally kind and caring, but she tends to be an absolute doormat. She lets others treat her badly, her husband especially, and is frustratingly spineless at times. Her modus operandi is to take the path of least resistance, behavior that led to a rift between us as she sided with my dad's abhorrent actions because appeasing him was more beneficial than siding with her son, such as when I found CP on my dad's computer. We'll add an addendum at the bottom since this seems to catch people's attention. So, my parents have retired to Portugal, but they came over to visit. I recently went no contact with them for about a year, but we've somewhat patched things up over the past year where our relationship is shallow but relatively amicable. My parents were staying with some of their friends, but my dad took offense to how much work he was doing and how little his friend's wife was doing, so he blew up and asked to crash at my place. My father was clearly making an effort to be more accommodating. He asked me a million times if it was okay if I bought a mattress for the guest bedroom because he didn't want to make changes that I wasn't okay with. This effort was self-derailed pretty quickly. The conflict. I was offered help incessantly. My girlfriend and I were in the process of moving, and my dad offered to help us move furniture. I preferred to do it on my own, so I politely declined. But he kept offering over and over and over. He'd insist to help, and he'd keep fucking asking within minutes of me saying no thank you. Later, my dad handed me a package, and it was a new $1,000 phone that I never asked for, that I don't need, and that I genuinely don't want to have. He didn't mention anything until it arrived. He started ordering furniture for the guest bedroom without asking, which was a departure from, "Are you sure it's okay if I get a mattress to sleep on?" He kept asking if I wanted food, and I said no thanks, and he'd bring food home anyways. He took us out to dinner and a bit of his plate for me, and then he demanded that I eat it. My mom said he bought me a smoker and then returned it since he was getting the sense that I didn't want to accept his barrage of arbitrary gifts. I can see how I might come off as ungrateful, continuously ducking my dad's attempts to bond, but I swear to God, there is something seriously wrong about the gift giving. He won't take no for an answer, he displays passive aggression when I don't give in, and he absolutely will not tolerate the boundaries I put up. This has also been, things seemed fine on Tuesday. The demands to provide for or help me had been minimal throughout the day, and my girlfriend had offered to make a nice dinner for us. My parents were enthusiastic about it and kept commenting about how good it smelled. My partner and I stepped out for a brief walk while the pasta sauce simmered, and when we got back, my parents were right at the door. I asked them if they were heading out, and my dad said yes. My mom, with tears in her eyes, sputtered out, "Everything is going to be okay." At this point, I got the sense that something happened and that they were leaving. I asked my mom if I'd see her again before she went back to Portugal, and she said, "You're young, you can do whatever you want," which left me dumbfounded. What the hell is going on? I've seen my dad get his feelings hurt over nothing and make a scene about it before, so while I was caught off guard, I wasn't shocked. My partner was incredibly offended, however. They tried to Irish goodbye us as she was cooking them dinner. We can only speculate what pissed my dad off, and I don't care to give him a chance to explain himself. I'd love to just go on and on about my family dynamic, especially since I've been exploring it a lot recently, but I'm opting to leave things here for brevity. Worth noting that with my mother, at least, my relationship was definitely inappropriately enmeshed growing up, which was a pretty big revelation for me. I would love to hear about others with parents and inappropriate, excessive, obsessive giving. I'm struggling to take in this behavior, and I'd appreciate the perspective of others. If anyone wants me to clarify anything, I'm chomping at the bit to explain what's up, so feel free to ask.